All right, so welcome everyone. It's so good to have you here. Today I want to share with you everything I know about microdosing and how to start today, because there is a lot of information out there, and unlike when I started 5 years ago, now it's too much information, and either way it's confusing, and people keep asking me, how do I start microdosing? So I thought I would put this presentation together to give you an overview of my step-by-step guide and how I did it when I started. Okay, so this is what I've prepared for you today. I'll share a bit about myself. We'll talk a bit about microdosing, safety, what to expect, how to make it work, some of the products that I have used and loved, and the step-by-step process, and then how we can connect. Now, I really love this quote from Einstein. It says, you can solve a problem using the same level of consciousness that created it. And I feel like psychedelics and microdosing do just that. They elevate our level of consciousness and give us a new perspective, a new way of connecting the dots and getting ourselves out of the stuckness that we oftentimes find ourselves in. So this has been, one of the biggest benefits of microdosing for me. It got me out of my situation, out of my head, and brought perspectives that I've never considered before. All right, so a bit about myself. I'm originally from Romania, but I lived in Canada for 10 years, and that's where I found psychedelics 6 years ago. Now, I moved in Canada at 27 years old, and until I found psychedelics, it was interesting because I never considered myself as being depressed, but thinking about life before and after psychedelics, I was depressed my whole life. And the reason I'm saying that is because life was always so gray, was so joyless, was meaningless. I would wake up every morning and I didn't really understand what's the point of me going to work or doing all these things that my friends were excited about. And so in that sense, when I discovered psychedelics, they saved my life. And it sounds cheesy, but they brought this meaning to my life. They brought joy and brought connection to myself and to hidden parts that I have hidden for so long. And so my depression had everything to do with being put in a box that I didn't fit in. And in that box, I had to learn how to cope and adapt to things I didn't like. And so in that process, I also became a people pleaser. I disregarded all these parts that wanted to be expressed and be lived through me. And they were just shoved down under, in the basement. And so when I discovered psychedelics, all those parts kind of came back rushing out. And I found new energy. And I really understood why people were in awe of this experience that we all call life. So like I said, they saved my life. They brought me back to life. Now, I have been doing this work for a bit over 6 years. And I've created, microdosing education, the website. It's a platform for anyone that wants to start microdosing and they don't know where to start. And I'm mostly focusing on practical tools. And I'm putting on that platform all the tools that helped me in my journey, because like I said at the beginning, there was not much information, and I had to kind of learn as I went with it and create tools for myself that worked for my microdosing journey. And now there are too many tools, there are too many pieces of advice, and it's so hard to choose and, pick and choose and see what works. And so I created Odin, which was the first microdosing journal for systematic tracking. I believe that establishing your baseline and from there kind of collecting personal data and looking at what microdosing brings out of you, you can actually reflect and look back and understand your blind spots, understand your patterns, emotional, thinking patterns, behavioral patterns, and then that's the point where you can start changing things. The things that I've also created were the Microdosing Stories podcast, because I believe in psychedelics so much, and I love connecting with people all over the world and hearing their stories. And so Microdosing Stories podcast is exactly that. It's a global community that brings together normal people sharing their story of transformation and healing using microdosing. And I want to normalize the conversation around microdosing. And then in those other pictures, you can see some of the events that I've created. And the biggest one that was also the most challenging was the one in Costa Rica. It was a retreat for women. And my first retreat ever. It was beautiful and amazing. And wow, I stepped outside of my comfort zone in ways I couldn't even fathom. So that was, yeah, intense. And then the other things I love doing is connecting with people around the world and creating experiences for others through in-person events or workshops or presentations. And currently I'm just doing online coaching for groups and in one-on-one with people. All right, so microdosing. Well, microdosing was pioneered by James Fadiman, and he defines microdosing as the practice of regularly consuming a very small amount of sub-hallucinogenic of a psychedelic substance with the intention of improving one's quality of life. And James Fadiman, found psychedelics in the 50s, and he also thought that, there is something about microdoses that could also have the same benefits without someone tripping so hard that they don't know on what world they are living. And so he started testing his hypothesis. And what he did, he created the psychedelic guide, and he released it out into the world, showing people or telling people how to start microdosing. And then he started collecting stories from people around the globe. So he gathered, stories from people from over 30 countries. More than 1,800 people sent him emails with their stories of transformation and healing. And he noticed that microdosing worked for such a wide variety of problems that people faced, and he couldn't quite understand why this thing works so well for so many things when, drugs on the market, they don't, they can barely bring any relief in people's lives. And so he basically took a closer look, and he decided microdosing was not a symptom-specific treatment, but it was more something that would balance out your systems. And the way it does that, it kind of brings to the surface all the things that we've been ignoring in our lives and asks us to pay attention to it. And once we do that, we start, bringing exactly what our body and mind and emotion needs. So for example, I wanted to give an example, but it's not quite here. So later I'll talk about a couple of people I worked with that microdosing revealed exactly this particular idea. But before we move into that, I want to talk a bit about the safety of microdosing and psychedelics. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Professor David Nutt. He is the head of psychopharmacology at Imperial College, and he's been very interested in drug policy and how all these forbidden drugs work in the body, and also why they were forbidden. And he concluded that, like, if looking back in the history, he concluded that drug policy was mostly politically decided. So it's not because, psychedelics are dangerous. Someone with political interest had a lot to gain out of that, out of banning them. So if you listen to his YouTube videos and read his books, you'll find out all the intricate details that led to psychedelics being put on the Schedule 1 law. And so he also created this chart where he looked at some of the most used substances out there, and he concluded that alcohol is the most harmful out of all of them. And if you can look at the bottom of the chart, LSD and mushrooms are the least harmful to someone's safety. So they're not just not harmful, but they also have healing benefits. And studies and research coming out now, it's showing how they can help with depression, anxiety, major depression, OCD, addiction, alcohol and tobacco, opioid addiction. So lots of interesting stuff happening in the background. Now, when I think about what to expect when you microdose, oftentimes when we start microdosing, we decide that we want to microdose for some reason, right? We think we know why we want to microdose, whether it's focus or energy or feeling better or reducing anxiety. But soon enough, microdosing as a non-specific amplifier brings to the surface all the things that that should be the reason for which to microdose. And so once we pay attention to those things that have been swept under the rug, we get to actually find relief using microdosing. So what to expect when microdosing is expect to be surprised. That's the experience that I had and the experience of all the people I've worked with. So, for example, one of my clients, Jessica, she is a mom and a small business owner, and she was looking for focus. She was the type of person that was always go, 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 doing all these things and never taking time to relax and take care of herself. And, she wouldn't even sleep long enough or eat regular meals. So her biggest fear when she started microdosing was that this was going to be a waste of her time, because she was the type of overachiever that she wanted to make sure that everything she did had a return of her investment. So like I said, she wanted focus because she wanted to manage all of her tasks. And she wanted to learn how to prioritize some of the things that she was dealing with. She had a 2-year-old daughter that was, wanting her attention and her connection. And then she also had a growing business that she had to take care of. Now, what she got was the need to take naps during the day. Now, you can imagine that someone that's always on the go, go, go and wanting to maximize their time, she got very pissed. So at first, she was resistant to the idea to actually give in and take a 20-30 minutes nap during the day. But as soon as she went with it, 2 weeks doing this, she actually found herself more energized and refreshed and with better energy than before, because right now she wasn't actually running on adrenaline and cortisol. She was relaxing her nervous system and giving her body what she needed, and she could actually pull from those resources to create more in her life. So the better results that she got was that newfound energy. And in the end, she really loved the experience of microdosing. Now, on the other hand, Julia, she's a holistic business coach. And again, she was looking for energy and focus for her business. And her biggest fear was she didn't want to lose control. She had experience with substances in her teenage years, but she was a grown-up and she was an adult and she didn't want to, be like a teenager again. That's what she told me. So like I said, she wanted more energy to keep building her business. Now, what she got, she actually found herself feeling more joyful, and also tapping into new resources of creativity. And she also noticed that she was better at communicating with her clients in like sales calls and in presentations. And the unexpected lesson for her was that she's actually joyful and creative, but not as serious as she thinks she was. And tapping into that gave her a lot more energy and a lot more focus for her business. So she definitely felt more magnetic because of that joyous energy. So these are two examples that, you know, kind of emphasize the idea that James Fadiman came to, that microdosing helps you rebalance the things that are out of balance in your body. And as soon as you let go of the resistance and you go with what needs to be, what you need to be paying attention to, then you'll get the benefits of microdosing. Now, how to make it work? And I will talk a bit about some steps that you can follow, but I found that principles are actually better for guiding the process. So first of all, unlike, an aspirin or other, pharmaceuticals, you have to give it time. It's not gonna, like, even if you take microdosing today and you'll feel a boost in your mood, the longer term effects you will see in 2, 3, 4 weeks after you start microdosing. So just give it time and be patient. Another thing that I've noticed is that as soon as you start treating, especially mushrooms, differently than another supplement or another medication, you create a relating to it in a way that they help you a bit more. So I know this sounds a bit woo-woo, but mushrooms are living beings, and as soon as they enter our bodies, they work magic like no other medication can. So treating it differently and connecting with it and setting the intention before and paying attention to it, and not just like popping it on your way out to your gym like another supplement, is actually gonna pay dividends later. And again, just pay attention to how it feels. And for paying attention, you have to slow down, especially for those that are in, like I said, in a go, go, go mode. As I mentioned before, microdosing is a non-specific amplifier. So it will bring to the surface things that we have been sweeping under the rug, things that we have been not looking at, pains that we haven't dealt with, or emotions that we've been suppressing. So in that sense, it might feel a bit uncomfortable. And so leaning into that discomfort and paying attention to what comes forward, it's actually going to benefit you the most. The other thing that happens is that sometimes I've noticed with some clients, they start microdosing and they feel the benefits, but they don't actually realize how big of a change microdosing made in their lives. And so having someone to mirror back at you, how microdosing is impacting you, can actually make you pay more attention to what microdosing is doing for you. Another thing that helped me, and I found my clients got a lot out of it, was tracking their experience. And I use this with my group programs too, and also in Odin, the journal that I created. There is a 30-day period where you just track your experience. You track the thoughts that you're having, you track your emotions, you track your experience, you track all the things that show up for you. And then in the end, at the end of every week or at the end of every month, you kind of reflect back and you highlight with a marker some of the things that are recurring in your life. And then you can extract that information and put it in a mind map. And that's how I work with people. We create mind maps for their experience, and they get to see on paper in front of them all the things that are connected and how they are connected and the patterns that they have in their lives. This thing about don't be afraid to admit you're wrong refers to the fact that, you know, like I said, microdosing can bring things that you need to pay attention to. And it's hard sometimes to say, well, I needed this in order to move forward, because it means that we didn't know best. We didn't know what was best for us in the past. And another thing to really, that goes hand in hand with tracking your experience, is notice the meaning and the stories you tell yourself about what happens. And oftentimes the meaning we give to what we do, how we feel, what happens to us, is creating a certain relating to that thing. And that relationship is what we can change. And in microdosing, it's emphasized the internal dialogue and all the things we create, like all the meaning we create in our head related to all those things. And so to change the relationship involves changing the story and the meaning. Okay, let's get to products. Like, I don't know if anyone is from Canada. Oh, yes. So Dan is from Canada. So I have 3 different products that I love and used. A little disclaimer, I do have a small commission from them, but it's, you know, meaningless. What I want to emphasize is that these products I've used and I love myself, and that's why I want to support them, because I oftentimes talk to people that order products of, you know, strangers on internet, and they get ripped off, and that's a shame, because it's just ruining their trust. And so in Canada, there are other companies that I've seen that I think have good products, but I have not tried them yet. So until I go back and try some more, I can have more. But for now, Bright Future is one of the companies that they have amazing products. They have a wide range of options. They have tinctures, capsules, chocolate and gummies for if you want to maybe have like a mini dose out in nature or with friends. But if you want to start small, you can start with the micro, which is their capsule, and it has a 50 milligram amount of psilocybin mushrooms. And my suggestion is to always start small and go slow. And you can increase your dosage from there. You can go from 50 to 100 or to 100 to 120. And from there, you just pay attention to how it feels. And I've had clients that started at 50 and that was even too much for them. So if that's the case, don't be afraid to even split the capsule in 2 and kind of divide the content. Okay, for those in US, this is a company from Oregon, and they have, again, products. Their simplest, like the starting product that I would suggest is the Golden Teacher. This one has ginger in it because sometimes mushrooms can make you feel nauseous. So ginger kind of helps with that. And both these companies, you have to actually sign up and create an account to even see these products in the back end. So Microdrops, for example, if you go on their website right now, you will see that they have products that you can use with microdosing, but all the microdosing products you won't see unless you create an account. Okay, and then in Europe, BN Health is another truffle company that I love. And this is not dried psilocybin mushrooms, these are truffles, and so the amounts will be different. And the difference between mushrooms and truffles, well, truffles go underground, and the way they are being sold is they're wet. So 1 gram of truffles equals 100 milligrams of psilocybin mushrooms in the active ingredient. And they have just 3 products, and you can start with the one that says peace in the chaos. All right, so now let's go to the step-by-step process. So first of all, you want to determine readiness. And the readiness comes from being physically ready. I will share in the email coming after with these slides and some other resources, a list of all the medication that doesn't interfere with microdosing, so it's safe to take them together. Or if it interferes, it just like blunts the effect a bit. But in that physical readiness, you want to assess, are you on medication? Do you have access to physical product? Have you or someone in your family, has been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar or manic episodes? Because that's the case, then it's not suggested to microdose. And another thing to pay attention to is heart problems when using microdosing. Now, the mental readiness refers to asking yourself, like, am I ready for a change? Am I ready for, and I know that this is, a bit unusual to ask, because we can say we are, oh, I'm ready for a change, and then we are not ready, right? But like ask yourself, like, am I ready to look at things that might be uncomfortable for me? Is my life in a chaos, or is it crumbling down? And if that's the case, then maybe I don't actually have the capacity to hold another disruptive things in my mind, and the way I'm looking at things right now. And I've had clients that they started microdosing, and all of a sudden terrible things happen in their lives, and if it felt like everything was falling apart. And so we had to stop, because in that case, it's very hard to manage another thing that brings things that are unsettled for you. And so microdosing does bring a bit of chaos or uncomfortable things, and so you have to be also mentally prepared for that. And then mentally speaking, am I, open enough for what's coming? And did I do my research? And I emphasize this because you want to read as much as possible on this. And when you feel ready, you want to take action. And then emotionally readiness refers to things like, do I have tools to regulate my emotions, or do I know someone that can help me, that I can co-regulate with? Or if I don't have the tools to regulate my emotions, am I aware enough of what tools I need for that? Or even aware that I need tools, like this type of awareness. There are different grades of awareness, but just knowing that emotionally you can handle something that might be a bit disruptive. And another thing to ask yourself is, like, do I have support from my community, emotional support? Now, the second step is determine logistics. And I didn't put it here, but first of all, you want to get a quality product. You don't want to order off someone, a stranger on the internet. And once you have that, you want to find your dose. And like I said, you want to start very small. You can choose maybe to take it every other day, or maybe, Fadiman's protocol, 1 day on and 2 days off, and start with 25 milligrams, and then increase next time to 50 milligrams, and then increase to 75 milligrams, and then every time you pay attention to see how it feels. And once you've reached your sweet spot, you'll feel that the day feels more vibrant. And looking back, you think that, oh, this was such a good day, right? So that's your sweet spot, your dose. And then when you choose your protocol, so after you found your sweet spot, your dose, you want to choose a protocol. And there are so many protocols that people are using. And I'm not going to go over those today. You'll receive them in the email. But I also look at, my client's calendar and looking at like what's actually feasible for their lifestyle. So maybe you can only microdose Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's okay. That's not a protocol that has a name or it's popularized, but it's something that works for you. Or I have clients that only can microdose Monday and Friday, right? So again, you want to fit it in your schedule and make it as the least like not make it too hard to actually take your microdose. And the other logistical part is, I would say you want to get a journal, and you want to start tracking your experience. You can do it anyhow you want it, but I would say that's a must. And journaling, besides the tracking part, I find that it often offers clarity in thinking. Like as soon as you put on paper all the things that are jumbled in your mind, they start taking shape and they become more clear. So that's one benefit. And then the other is it's cathartic. Putting on paper what's inside, it's almost like, oh my God, now I can let this go for a bit. And I can come back to it if I need to. And then there is intentional microdosing, which is step 3. I talked about this before, but you want to create a connection with your microdosing. And the way to do that is you set an intention. You can set an intention for the whole journey or for the day when you hold the microdose in your hand. And an intention it's not a goal, first of all. And it's almost like a North Star. So for example, when I started microdosing, I knew I wanted to be a bit more flexible in my approach, in my attitude. And because I knew I was a bit of a control freak, and things that didn't go my way or were, outside of what I planned I would be very upset with that. And so as soon as, like I microdosed and then throughout the day, something happened, didn't go my way. And instead of wanting to react like I normally do, I would remember that intention that I set in the morning, that I actually want to be more flexible and open. And so it gave me room to stop and not react, and instead respond to what was happening. And by doing that once, doing it twice, and then over and over, you kind of rewire your brain this way. Another thing that helps is creating a ritual. And a ritual doesn't have to be anything that you've seen, on social media or on TV. It can be something that you do, right? Like even, I don't know your rituals in the morning, but I personally, wake up and then I stretch and then I don't look at my phone. But then the first thing I do is, prepare my favorite coffee the way I want it. And so I like that because it just puts me in a certain mood. It just sets me up for the day. And that is my ritual. And you can create any ritual you want. You can create a ritual before going to bed. You can create, but rituals are a way to bring intention and mindfulness and attention to the things that you want to create in your life. And then the other part of intentional microdosing is mindfulness and adding a mindfulness practice. And that could be anything from meditation to journaling, even shaking off your energy with a song, like dancing or movement, or even, like I said, even I find myself being mindful when I go to the gym because I'm fully present in that activity and my mind doesn't go in a million directions. So anything that can focus, any practice that helps your mind to just focus and not be, distracted. And then step 4 of this process is the first is reflect and learn. And I find that I've seen a lot of people in my community in Vancouver that had amazing insights from macro journeys and microdosing journeys, but nothing would change in their lives. And I feel like that can be like if you're looking to expand and grow and transform and move forward in your life, you want to reflect and learn lessons from your past. And the best way to do that is, well, first of all, like I said, you want to track your experience, and you want to look at patterns. And the reason I keep talking about tracking is because we have this thing called confirmation bias, and we remember things that we want to remember are in alignment with our beliefs about the world, about ourselves. And so we don't actually see clearly what are our limiting beliefs or our blind spots. And so, say, for example, one thing that I've noticed when I started tracking my experience was that there were certain people in my life that every time I would hang out with, I would feel low on energy. And I didn't feel it when it happened, but like I would write it down. And then when I looked back at all those entries, I was like, this is interesting. So I kind of started digging deeper, and it was indeed something that was not necessarily supportive of in my life. And I had to make a decision, do I still hang out with these people? Do I, let go of them? Are they, aligned with where I'm going? What's happening? And so that's why I keep insisting on tracking your experience, because it will give you access to those patterns and those beliefs that you have that you don't know you have. And then to find the patterns, you want to look at what repeats. And I find that there is so much value in sharing with others and receiving a new point of view to your stories, because we can only see things from one point of view. And oftentimes every situation, every memory, everything has multiple point of views, and having someone to kind of show that, oh, this thing can look also this way or this way, it's very important. Okay, so if you want to connect with me, I have a whole bunch of resources, but you can join my waitlist. I do walk people through the system I have in the journal, and it's a small group often, and people love it because it offers them accountability and they want to learn from one another. So the next one will probably start in September. But if you join the waitlist, then you will definitely be the first to know. And then this is how you can connect with me. I will send all the slides to you so you have access to all these links and all the coupon codes. And on my website, you'll find a lot of free guided meditation and visualizations that I've created and uploaded there. And there is one that's called intention setting and grounding. It's a 5-minute meditation that you can use when you first start microdosing. It actually helps with that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I don't know who else is left, but I would love to hear if any of you have questions. and I'll stop recording.